everybody, it is Wednesday. We are live on the Pastor Scott Show. Go to pastorscottshow.com to connect with us online. The phone number to join the conversation is 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. We talk about issues of the day from a Christian perspective. Go to clip number 8.
My biggest fear about the government is just taxes. I worry about it all year long because other countries, the government will tell you what you owe, and then you just have to pay it. Here, the government's like, okay, what do you think you owe us? I have no idea. Just tell me. Nope, you got to add it up. And then give it. Well, I'm really unorganized. What happens if I add it up wrong? You could go to jail. Oh, my. That's terrifying. Please, I'll pay you whatever you want. Just tell me. Nope, guess.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's April 15th. That means today is tax day.
And frankly, you frighten people.
Did that just worry you all of a sudden? Did you forget? Did you realize that you haven't dropped off your extension yet? Or have you paid it? And if you have paid it, if you're done with your taxes, here's the big question of the day. How'd that go for you? Did you get more money back than you expected? Did the big, beautiful bill pay off for you in one way or another? Give us a call. Tell me your story. How did it go? 888-528-2557. 888-528-2557. That's the Pastor Scott Show phone number, 888-528-2557. Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, came out and was discussing all of those issues today and talking about who should be getting a bigger refund and who shouldn't. 9-1.
But most importantly, it's been a great tax season for the American people. Thanks to promises made, promises kept, through the working families tax cuts, the president has delivered the record refunds to the American people. More than 45% of the filers of the returns that we have seen have had at least one of the 4 president's signature policies. No tax and tips, no tax and overtime, the deductions for our great seniors, and the deductibility of interest on auto loans for American-made cars. And I will tell you that one of those that Americans have taken is no tax and overtime. And it's the American way. If you want to work longer hours, you get to keep more of your money.
All right, so he's talking about the big, beautiful bill and the new promised tax cuts and where that lands. And if you haven't paid attention, it's funny because I've been watching all these people comment on it all day. And, you know, you have to, it's not just your refund, because maybe you paid overall less taxes or more. Your refund may not have anything to do with it. It really depends on a lot of different factors, right? But if you didn't change anything at all in how you have withholdings and you didn't really change your income very much, then you're going to notice that somehow in your refund or in paying less or paying more, however that works. So how did it go for you? 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. Jose, did you do your taxes? Are you done with them? Did you get them done? We talked about your taxes the other day because I'm kind of an amateur tax guy. I get how it all works.
Well, last year, I was very disappointed. I only got $1 back in my federal return.
Uh-huh.
This year, it went up to 500 something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, $1, in some respect, that's great, right? Because that means you didn't give them over more money during the year. You know, getting a refund, it's not like bonus money. It's money you should have had earlier. Just keep that in mind. It's one of those things that we kind of we don't understand often about the taxes.
Okay.
But you were surprised to get 500 back. What changed?
Well, I got a lot of overtime this year, right?
Yeah.
So I remember they talked about this in the big, beautiful bill. No, no taxes on overtime. So I was like, it asked me that. I used TurboTax, the free version. It asked me, did you work overtime? And then I asked you the other day, I was like, for this, I would have to go to last year's. And you told me, yeah. So I looked it up. My year to date, I put in the hours and how much I earned from overtime, and then it gave me like some crazy number of how much I saved. I was like, whoa. And then like I was surprised. I was like, last year I only got $1, and now it went up to 500 something. And I was like, wow, it's a really big
That's
difference.
awesome. So that's $500 you were not expecting. That's pretty good. That's what in overtime. If you work overtime, that is one of the big things that's going to get you more money back. So hopefully, how are you able to track that? It's on your pay stub, or you must know how does that work?
Yeah, we go to our little UKG thing,
Right,
and then it
online. We
has
get
like
all that stuff online now.
yeah, it has like your W-2, and then it also has like all the other things like your overtime, your
Yeah.
tax documents. I just got it from there.
So you just got to make sure that you're plugging that in. I wonder how many people do their own taxes versus using somebody out there. I think a lot.
Well, yeah,
TurboTax.
because nowadays our W-2 it has like a little link where it's like connect your W-2 to TurboTax, and it automatically uploads all the information to TurboTax.
Oh, I know. All of those things, it seems like that's a little good ploy there by the TurboTax people to get you tied in. But a lot of people give all of their stuff to an accountant. I'll be honest with you. I'm not doing that this year. I have recently. I'm going back to TurboTax this year because it's a lot of money that you pay those guys, and mine's not that complicated. And then I feel like I can do the same for, $50 or whatever it is. How much is TurboTax? $45, something like that at the Costco. I think I can do it.
Yeah. So if people, this kind of sounds like a plug for TurboTax, but if you use TurboTax free edition
or an online edition,
yeah,
there are many other companies that are probably all the same.
Sometimes, like, okay, so the thing is, someone else that I knew was using TurboTax, but they had like some things like if you sell like stocks or something, the free version of TurboTax, you're gonna have to upgrade to like the
Yes.
paid version for it to file that stuff for you. And I was like, really? So I was like, I don't know. It says that you could pay TurboTax out of your like tax return
Yeah.
instead of having to pay out of your own wallet. So I was like, okay, that's cool. So
They do all kinds of things,
yeah.
but you want to make sure if you're doing it yourself, you want to make sure you're getting all of the benefits. Now I've heard, I haven't done this yet. I might do this tonight. I'm a little bit, well, for me, still early because for me, I have until midnight to get this done. My wife does not agree with that philosophy. She thinks I have until March 1st to get it done. Last March 1st. That's when it should be done. But for me, I've got till midnight tonight to finish mine on time. Otherwise, I'm completely comfortable with the extension.
Now I have a question.
Yes.
I'm looking for your expertise. So what's the difference between the federal refund and the state refund? Because on the federal I got 500 something, but I'm looking at my TurboTax. It's saying I'm getting 338 from California's tax return.
Yeah.
So what's the difference?
Well, if you look at your W-2, you will notice that you have federal taxes that are withheld and state taxes that are withheld, and your refund is coming from two different sources. So you actually are filing your tax software, I should say, is creating your federal form and your state form, and it's all in one shot. And you send it in, and you'll get two refund checks if they owe you. So is that more than you got last year from the state?
I'd have to check. Give me 30 seconds.
All right, well, we'll check that out. How did it go for you? It's tax day today. Did you notice a bigger refund, more money than you expected, or less? Where are you? Was it more, less, or indifferent? How was it for you? 888-528-2557. 888-528-2557. This is the Pastor Scott Show. It is tax day. Which is a big day, my son is looking for his first job, and I can't wait till that first paycheck comes and he discovers how badly he's going to get robbed out there.
How dare you?
It's going to be a great day. He's calculating all this money that he's going to make at fast food. You get paid a lot at fast food. In fact, that's one of the issues is some people are saying, oh, my gosh, I'm paying so much more taxes. But if you went from $14 an hour or $15 an hour to $22 an hour because you went from McDonald's to In-N-Out, you're gonna pay more in taxes. But you need to look at that percentage, right, that you're getting back because you're making, 33% more money. So you got to make sure you can't just say, "Oh, I paid more taxes." Well, yeah, if you made more money, that's over the big picture. That's big deal for you. But you're going to see a lot more of it come out. All right, so how did this go for you? 888-528-2557. Pat and Covina, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hi, Pastor Scott. I feel so blessed that I've been able to catch you many times now to be able to chat with you. This subject that we're talking about, I just wanted to let you know that I was so blessed this year because I was divorced about 12 years ago, and for the last 12 years, I've had to pay into my federal and into my state. And it just broke my heart.
Like on tax day, you owed money.
Yeah, I owed money, and it just broke my heart every single time I had to write out a check or whatever I had to do.
It is heartbreaking. It's like, oh man, I'm paying for somebody's hospice fraud right now. That's what I feel. Yeah. I might actually be on hospice right now, and I don't know it. And now I'm paying for it.
I know. I may be on hospice next year if this doesn't happen again, and I get blessed next year. I don't know what will happen, but this year I just wanted to share that. This year I almost tried. I almost cried. I mean, in the office with my my accountant, where I usually get my taxes done, and I'm telling you, after paying more than $1,000 or more for the last 12 years into my taxes, this year I'm getting back $3,400.
Wow. Well, now what do you do for a living?
I work part-time for a school district and part-time for a drugstore, CVS drugstore. And I don't work, I only work 3 days a week at the drugstore, but every day at the school. But anyway, I was so floored. But she told me it had everything to do with the senior citizen tax deduction.
Yes.
That was given to senior citizens this year.
Senior citizens, if you're over 65 plus, you get a $6,000 additional standard deduction. So one of the reasons that people are seeing a bigger refund than they expect is because the standard deductions went up. So unless you itemize, now if you itemize, it's different. But if you don't itemize, and most people don't.
I don't.
Yeah. So if you're not itemizing, what happened is now you got to write off $6,000 more. Your adjusted gross income went down by $6,000. So that's where a bunch of that refund is. Plus, there are some other things that are in that bill. And so that worked for you. That's a good deal.
Oh, yeah. And since I'm off in the summer and not receiving that bulk of money that I make while I'm working at the district every summer, that is going to just come in so handy to help me pay my bills this summer. I'm just so blessed. Thank you, Jesus.
Oh, good for you. Well, that's awesome. Yeah. So don't blow it all in one place. You never know. You know, the gas tax. The gas tax does go up in July. I mean, they take it back from you in other ways. That's kind of.
Don't they? And I think you were sharing a few minutes ago about that a lot of this money, we get excited, but it should have been money we should have been getting a lot longer time ago, you know.
It's not like, it's people get excited about a big refund, but if you get a really big refund, that means you were paying too much throughout the year of your money, and the government just holds it without interest. So the goal, like Jose said, that last year he got $1. Well, that's perfect. That means they didn't have any more money than they should have had. He did it right. You know, although some people just sort of use it as if you're the type of person who just spends all your cash all the time, well, then it sort of forces you to save a little bit. Not the right way to do it, but it helps. Well, that's great news, Pat. I'm glad that worked for you.
I'm blessed, and I just wanted to share that with you and let you know that was my experience, and I just really, truly enjoy listening to your conversations with everybody. Every day when I leave school, I listen to you from the time I leave the campus until I get home, and it's just, I love listening to the show.
Well, thank you, Pat. Thanks for calling the Pastor Scott Show, and thanks for listening. 888-528-2557. Did you do your taxes or due today? Did you get a higher refund than you expected? Did you pay more? Did you notice, were you a beneficiary of the big, beautiful bill and the changes that are coming? 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. So, Jose, you were looking up your state tax. So last year's refund, you got $257. This year, $338.
Yeah.
I think I'd be curious to look and see how that worked for you, but it's probably the standard deduction goes up. I don't know how that fits in the state because I'm a little behind at my taxes.
Did see because someone I knew was trying to do the itemized deduction.
Yeah.
But I was like, just go with the standard. It told me to use the standard deduction.
Yeah.
Like it gave me like some crazy number. I was like, whoa. I would just look at the numbers, and if it's higher, I just go with it.
Yeah, well, the standard's much easier. You don't, if you own a house, you have a big mortgage write-off and some other things you probably have to itemize. But other than that, unless you're making a ton of money and giving a lot away for some reason, you're going to use the standard. And that's where a lot of that benefit is this year. 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557, Pastor Scott Show. Go to pastorscottshow.com to find us online. Mark in L.A., welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you.
I'm good, Mark.
Well, I'm a tax preparer, and I've been doing this for quite some time, and I just wanted to give some information out there and maybe help people do it easier. I work with H&R Block and other companies, and they do overprice and overcharge, and basically it's a number game. It's whatever you're being, people with W-2s and only W-2s. It's just, are you getting taxed enough or not? If you're not getting taxed enough, then you have to owe. If you overpaid, that's your refund. Unless there's children and stuff like that, that's a little different. As far as itemizing, no one really itemizes, like you said, unless they have, they own a house or they're giving away big charities. Other than that, everyone gets pretty much the standard deduction.
Right.
It's pretty much how you fill out your W-4 in the beginning. That's how it is.
Now,
Some people want to claim head of the household, and they're not head of the household. They think because they own an apartment or and that they're head of the household, not knowing they have to have a dependent, and so therefore they get taxed less at their job, and that's why they get undertaxed.
So if you find that you owe a lot of money, something's wrong with probably your W-4 where you work. You filled that out wrong.
Yeah, exactly. You got to put single. And if you have two jobs, then you got to take into account that you're going to be making extra money, and you got to let both jobs know. And so therefore they can tax you appropriately.
Yeah. So that's where it does start to get complicated. And I think that's something important for people to hear, that if you're owing a lot of money, but also if you're getting a lot back, something's not right, in how your withholdings are happening.
Here's one that's helpful too. And it's like, if you do self-employment, and a lot of people are in Uber and Dash and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter if you make $4,000 all year. You're still going to owe for self-employment tax, and that's what they owe for is self-employment tax. Not the government will give you like $15,700 to deduct. So let's say I made Uber $15,700 to deduct with no expenses. Well, then I don't owe no taxes on that, but I do owe self-employment tax on $15,700,
and you owe
which is a pretty big chunk.
It's like 15.4% or something like that. What is the tax rate for that? It's huge.
Right, 15.3%, 2.7, yes. And then the other thing is, let's say you make $10,000 on Uber, and you take your expenses as itemizing your miles, and let's say you come down to $5,000, well, then you owe tax on $5,000, which is about $900. It's about $143 to almost every $1,000. So if I made $1,000 profit on Uber, $1,000, I would have to still pay IRS $143.
Yeah. So you're making the case, I think, for a lot of people. When we started the conversation, we were talking about people using TurboTax and those kinds of software programs. And you're making the case, though, for why they should come to you, because if they might be missing things, and you can enter the wrong information into your tax software.
That's pretty good. Yeah, that's a good reason why, especially if you do have these expenses, because TurboTax is not really going to get real intricate or knows all the, it's not really going to have someone to talk to, or question you. You're not going to know about, I could take out mask, I could take out, just those little things that can help you out.
Yeah.
Your cell phone. And then there's percentages on cell phone where you have to be careful. Just because you have a cell phone, you don't take all your cell phone expense. It depends if you use it for personal. So there's a
That's right.
percentage. There's a percentage.
You can't just say, I made a couple of work phone calls on my cell phone, so I'm going to write the whole thing off. You can't do that.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So, and you got to be careful, because the IRS doesn't mess around when they catch you doing the wrong thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And, I'm out there. I try to help out. I really teach all my clients, you know what? If you get taxed properly, I have guys that made $100,000 on a W-2, and they get $1,000 returned all the time. Always a return. There's not that myth of, you have to have children to get money back. No, you just got to get taxed properly.
You just got to have good advice.
It's really not that much.
Yeah. Well, Mark, it sounds like you do a great job. I'm almost here at the break. Appreciate you calling in.
All right, buddy.
All right.
Thank you.
God bless. 888-528-2557. 888-528-2557. This is the Pastor Scott Show. It's tax day today. Did you do your taxes? How did it go? Were you surprised by your refund or surprised at how much you had to pay? Was it different? Did the big, beautiful bill make something different for you? We'll tell you some other reasons why that might have affected you when we come back on the Pastor Scott Show. Stay tuned. Welcome back. It is Pastor Scott Show. We're live. It's Wednesday. It's tax day today. Phone number is 888-528-2557. 888-528-2557. Did you get your tax refund? Was it bigger or smaller than you expected? Did you owe more or less than what you expected, or is it about the same? How'd it work for you? 888-528-2557. Clip 6.
Oh, hey, you got it.
Hey, what happened to my stereo? It's all smashed up.
That's right. Now, it looks like it was broken during shipping, and I insured it for $400.
But you were supposed to get me a refund.
You can't get a refund. Your warranty expired 2 years ago.
So we're going to make the post office pay for my new stereo now?
It's a write-off for them.
How is it a write-off?
They just write it off.
Write it off what?
Jerry, all these big companies, they write off everything.
You don't even know what a write-off is.
Do you?
No, I don't.
But they do. And they're the ones writing it off.
That is a Seinfeld clip. I bet a lot of people don't know what a write-off is, and you get a lot of trouble on your taxes if you just start writing stuff off that you shouldn't do. 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. Pastor Scott Show. How did your taxes go this year? 888-528-2557. Sherelle in Inglewood, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hi, Pastor Scott. Yeah, I do my taxes in January, get them back in February. What I was just saying, as far as my return, it was less than it was in 2024. In 2025, with the exception of the federal went up a little bit, but not by anything like a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So it was actually more money that I got in 2024 for my federal tax.
So you got more. Did your income change?
My income went up, but I still got more money back doing my 2024 federal tax return refund
Than you did this time. So,
yes.
Okay. So it's not, there are several categories where people should expect more, but if you didn't fit into one of those, you might not. In all of that.
I mean, it was a little bit more than last year, but nothing like what I got in 2024. 2024 still was more than 2020.
You got a much bigger refund in 24.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. We're talking about the federal, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope that that means you made more money at the end of the day.
Yeah, I did. It's just that when I hear people saying, everybody's getting back a bigger tax return, that's actually not true.
Yeah, it's not.
Even for those of us who got a raise, it's not.
That's right. And that's the funny part about the conversation, right? Is your return doesn't mean you paid less or more taxes. It just means that the numbers were different. You might have paid less or more, but if you made more money, well, then you probably got less back, or you paid more at the end of the day. To really find out what you paid, you just go to that line in your taxes that says this is what you actually paid. And that's the number that counts, because your refund just has to do with how much got withheld each year. Sherelle, thanks for calling.
Yeah, the withholding. Yeah, because I had to adjust that. But it still was more money last year than what I made. So that was my California tax that was increased, not the federal.
Not the federal one. Were you disappointed, or was that what you expected?
I was disappointed because I got more last year. I mean, the year before last in 2024, and I only got 5 books on 2025. So, I was disappointed.
Yeah, that's such a...
It was a little bit annoying hearing politicians saying everybody's getting this big tax refund. It's like, that's not true for everybody.
That's right, except for you.
Because it's not, I'm sure it's not just me, but just the fact that everyone didn't benefit from that bill.
Right. All right, Sherelle, thanks for calling the Pastor Scott Show. 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. This is Scott Bessent again talking about withholdings and what you should do, 9-2.
I want to encourage everyone out there watching today to change their withholding if they haven't already done so because if you change your withholding, then you will get an automatic real wage increase, be it on a weekly or a monthly basis, and you will be able to keep more of your money this calendar year.
So what he's saying is if you happen to get a big refund, I looked it up. The average refund is a lot of money. The average refund, according to the IRS, this IRS website, says that it's overall, and Sherelle is right, not everybody's going to benefit. I'll give you this. There's 6 areas where you probably benefit from the big, beautiful bill and what happened this year over last year. But the average refund is around $3,462 to $3,500. That's 11%, according to the IRS, 11% increase over the same period last year. And millions of filers, they say, are seeing an increase of about $350 or more. So it's not $3,500 more than last year. It's really $350 more than last year that many people are finding, which is not nothing, but it's not huge. But if you're getting $3,500 back, that means you're giving the government $3,500 to hold on to for you. It's your money. The reason you get a refund is because you paid too much tax. And adjusting your withholdings, you just go to your employer and you say, hey, I want to adjust this. You figure out what you actually think you're going to owe and try to get that closer to zero. That's what he's talking about. Because the amount you get for the refund isn't actually the measurement of how well you did in taxes. You might get a really big refund, but overall you paid more. Or you might get not a refund. You might even have to pay, but if you still paid less than you paid overall last year, well, then you did better. How did it go for you? Did you find a bigger refund, more to pay? Were you affected by the big, beautiful bill? 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. All right, here's the people who are most likely going to see the benefit of the new tax policies. Families with children. Child tax credit rises to $2,200 per qualifying child under 17, up from $2,000. So I got 2 kids. That means I'm going to get $400 in tax credit over last year just because I have kids, with the refundable portion up to $1,700. It starts to phase out at $200,000 or $400,000 if you're filing jointly. So if you make that much money, you're not going to see that. Service or tipped workers. Are you a waiter, waitress? No tax on tips. So if you qualify, there's a new deduction up to $25,000 in qualified tip income, which also phases out above $150,000. That is, that's a lot. If you wait table, you serve and you wait tables, that is a big tax cut for you. So you're one of the people who should be making a lot more money on your taxes or getting more back. Hourly overtime workers, we talked about that. Jose is one of the beneficiaries of that. Seniors over 65, an additional $6,000 standard deduction. So if you are a senior, you're over 65, and nothing really changed between last year and this year, you should have seen a bigger discount. And if you didn't, then I think you should go back and ask your accountant or go online and figure that out, because that's just pretty basic right there. You should see more, unless you make a bunch of money. There are plenty of tax cuts for people who make a bunch of money, but these are the ones for the average person. People in high tax states, SALT deduction cap. And I don't know all the details about that. SALT is state and local tax, okay? You get a better deduction if you pay a lot in state taxes. So some states, like Florida, for example, you don't pay any state income tax, nothing. California, you pay a lot of state income tax, provided you make, you have to make $50,000 or more, I think, before you actually start paying anything. So in California, but you pay a lot. California is a highly taxed state, but this tax deduction should help you. Maybe that's the reason. I haven't figured that out yet, if that's the reason that you might be getting more back, Jose, on the state. 888-528-2557 is the number. Pastor Scott Show. Standard deduction. Most people just take the standard deduction, and that means that went up. You're going to get, if your income and everything's the same as it was last year, you'll get more money back because the standard deduction went up. You can deduct on auto loan up to $10,000. I didn't know that. I forgot about that. Up to $10,000, you can deduct auto loan interest on certain U.S. assembled vehicles. All right, so that's what it has to be. And then the other thing is Trump accounts, which actually doesn't give you a tax benefit, but it's something new to be checking out. Go to 9.3.
With the Trump accounts, we have had 5 million families file for Trump accounts for their children. 1.2 million of those are eligible for the $1,000 seed bonus. So we look forward to that picking up more and more. For those of you who haven't done it, it's easy to remember, Form 4547. You can do it while you're filing your taxes. You can do it at any point during the year. We think this is going to be transformational in terms of financial literacy. This is Financial Literacy Month, and at Treasury and all over the administration, we are working with the American people, with American families, not only to give them more of their money, but to show them how to invest it in a safe, smart, and sound way.
The Trump accounts, this is for kids. This is actually, I think, a great thing. Trump accounts, which you can open now. I don't think you can start funding it till July. But the Trump account it's basically almost like a retirement account for your kids. And when they turn 18, they can convert it into an IRA, or they can take it out and use it for expenses or a down payment on a home. And you can start putting money in there. If you're born from 2025 through, I think, 2029, you're going to get $1,000 in there seed money to start out with. That's what he's talking about, $1,000. And there are some other big benefactors who are going to toss in a couple $100. That's not bad. You have a baby and you got $1,200 already in a retirement account. Good for you, because you're going to have to be 105 before you get your Social Security. That's probably how that's going to play out. So I think that's a real good deal. I'm going to sign my kids up for it. Why not? They don't get any money. They don't qualify for the bonus money. But I want them to see it as something they could contribute to right now before they turn 18. Once you turn 18, there's some limits to it. So you got to read all the fine print with that. I think that's a pretty good deal. All right, I got to take a break here in a second. How did it go for you tax-wise? It's tax day today, and maybe you've had a tax experience. I'll tell you some of mine when we come back. Some of it is fun. I miss the old days of trying to get to the post office in time to get that postmark. If you're a procrastinator when it comes to doing your taxes late. Some of you right now are just hearing it for the first time that your taxes are due today, and you're leaving work early. For that reason right there. I know that you are. 888-528-2557. This is the Pastor Scott Show. 888-528-2557. Go to pastorscottshow.com to connect with us online. pastorscottshow.com to connect with us online. And we'll take your calls when we come back on the Pastor Scott Show. And follow us on social media at Pastor Scott Show. See you in 4 minutes. Stay tuned. Welcome back. We're live. It's Wednesday on the Pastor Scott Show. It is tax day, number 7.
Hey, everybody. Gather around. I'm here to give you anything you like. You want free college, energy, mortgages, whatever you like. You have come to the right place. Why? I'll tell you why. Who can take your money? Who can take your money? With a twinkle in their eye. A twinkle in their eye. Take it all away and give it to some other guy. The government. The government. The government can. The government can. And who can tax the sunrise? Who can tax the sunrise? Who can tax the trees? Who can tax the trees? And let you run a business and collect up all the fees. The government. The government. Oh, the government can. The government can. And the government can, 'cause they mix it up with lies and make it all taste good. Make it all taste good.
That is comedian Tim Hawkins. There's a whole song about tax day and government just taking your money like they do.
But them's the breaks.
But do you have an attitude about paying your taxes? Just, a little bit of a attitude? I do. And it's not really right, because scripturally it tells us to pay our taxes. I have an attitude because I just see so much waste. I think when the government is spending money wisely, I feel a lot better about it. You need it. You need everything to function properly. But when you've got all this fraud going on and people hardly doing anything about it, then I just feel like I'm throwing my money into a hole somewhere. And we should be more accountable. We should all be marching in the streets about the fraud and all of that, right?
Well, you got an attitude with you, I'll tell you that.
I do on that kind of thing. How do you feel about paying your taxes? Do you feel like, do you have that kind of attitude? Or are you like, you know what, this is my patriotic duty, And, you obviously want to do what's best for you and your family when it comes to that and do it right. Does it bother you at all, or is it just part of it? 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. The hard part about that, if you've got an attitude, is Paul. Scriptures tells us to pay our taxes, Romans 13. This is also why you pay taxes, for the authorities are God's servants. Give to everyone what you owe them. If you owe taxes, pay taxes. That's the thing is whenever this fraud stuff started coming up, we had a caller one time and he was like, how about if we just all don't pay our taxes? Well, I don't think that's really the option. There's probably a time when you throw the tea overboard, right? And you get to that. But I think the right option is we should be paying more attention to our government so that they spend the money right and prosecuting those who are robbing you. They're robbing you, by the way. So all this fraud that we're seeing here in California, we're seeing it in other states, Minnesota, other places, that's not magic money that, they're not stealing government money, so it doesn't matter. They're stealing your money. The government has no money. Did you know that? The government has no money. They take the money from you. That's how they get their money. That's it. And that's why it matters. And yet we're told to pay our taxes. And Paul's talking about the Roman government. Jesus, when he said, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, render the things to Caesar's that are Caesar's, and to God all the things that are God. There's a lot packed into that statement. And part of it is they were trying to trap him. They're trying to get him to say, don't pay your taxes. He could be arrested if he said, don't do it. And then if he says, do pay, just pay your taxes, it angered people because the Roman government was not just in what they were doing with the taxes. But he gives them a deeper principle, right? The principle ultimately is you pay the taxes because even under a flawed government, even an ungodly government, you still pay them. But God is who gets your heart and your worship and allegiance. And the world just can't function. As soon as you decide, I'm just not going to pay it, I'm going to take my attitude and I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to not do it. Or if you decide to cheat on your taxes, which you should not do, you are creating a distraction for the mission that you have. In Peter chapter 2, verse 13, submit yourselves to the Lord's sake to every human authority. Show proper respect to everyone. Fear God. Honor the emperor. It is part of what we have to do as believers, as hard as that might be, when we don't see our government respecting the money that we give them, that they take from us. This is the Pastor Scott Show, 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. It's tax day today, and so it's a reminder, you got to get those done or get your extension in by this evening. And you get 6 months for free. Now, you didn't used to on your extension. You used to you got 2 months for free is how it used to be, but then you had to give a reason for the additional 4 months. You didn't just get it as a bonus. Now you can have an extension. You have until October 15th to do it. But it used to be they gave you till June 15th, but then you have to have a reason. And I know all about this because I gave them a reason one time. I told them I'm a moron. That's why I needed more time. I wrote that on the form. And you know what? They approved it. So I guess that officially I'm a moron. I try to sneak that into my taxes somewhere, because that's not a real reason. They tell you, the reasons are health problems, or the reasons are if you're in the military and you were deployed. There's certain things that you can get an extension for back when you had to argue about it. But then it's very explicit. You can't just say I didn't get around to it. You can't say I'm a procrastinator. You can't say that kind of stuff. That was unfortunately the truth for me, actually. So I wrote in the form, I'm a moron. And they gave me the extra four months because I put that down there, right? I think that there's a guy at the IRS who has that probably in his, stapled to his cubicle somewhere. Well, this guy's a moron. I'm going to get him. Somebody had to read that. That's right. Eric is saying they probably thought it was so ridiculous that they approved it. I think that's right. See, and I think that he's got it up on his wall, and they laugh about that all the time. And you know what, though? I took it, and I probably barely got my taxes done by October 15th, as it turned out. 888-528-2557. This is the Pastor Scott Show, 888-528-2557. If you want to join the conversation, did you get more in your refund than you expected? Lots of people are. About 80%. I looked up the number. About 80% of people are going to see, and middle-class people, okay? So there's different brackets and different things. Almost 80% of people are going to see some benefit, some tax cut of all people. And, the big dollar amounts are the people who pay a lot. So rich people are going to have a lot come back. But between $50,000 and $150,000 a year, that is from a percentage standpoint, that's the best. You're going to do pretty well if you do overtime or if you get tips, certain things that you're getting taxed on. So 888-528-2557. How did that go for you? 888-528-2557. I'll get your call here in just a second. I want to tell you about Sanctuary Metals. You might be thinking about your finances today and looking at your retirement accounts and looking at those retirement accounts that are just sitting there not being managed well, or you're looking at the stock market going up and down and you're concerned that maybe there's a bubble or a crash or something and you're just at a time of life when you need more security. Well, give Sanctuary Metals a call. They specialize in helping you move part of your IRA or 401k into physical gold and silver, not just paper investments that can rise and fall with the stock market. If you've got an old retirement account from an old job, old employer, or if you're over 59 and a half, you may be able to roll it over with no taxes and no penalties if you qualify. It takes about 15 minutes over the phone, and their team will walk you through everything on the phone. They do the paperwork, they're the custodian, and they store your gold and silver in IRS-approved vaults, giving you peace of mind. You don't have to keep it in your closet. So give Sanctuary Metals a call today, 800-801-9877, 800-801-9877. When you call, make sure you tell them Pastor Scott sent you to see if you qualify for a no-fee-for-life precious metals IRA. And you can also learn more online at sanctuarymetals.com. That number again is 800-801-9877. All right, Pastor Scott Show, 888-528-2557. Eddie in Huntington Beach, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hello, Pastor.
Hi, Eddie.
My question is, or what I'm unhappy about is like when you get my paycheck, they already taxed me, right? And
yeah.
Then I put some money aside for my savings, and then I earn interest. They want us to add that in my income. Then you get taxed.
Yes, they tax the interest. In fact, the state of California, I read this morning, is considering a bill where they will actually tax what you have in your savings already. So you get taxed on the interest and you'll get taxed on your savings, which to me seems crazy.
Oh my gosh.
They want to do all kinds of stuff, though, because they want to tax you if you decide to leave the state. This is something else they're also considering. So it's not the law yet, but they're considering a 10-year tax on you if you leave the state. I don't even see how that's constitutional, how they can do that. But to keep you from moving to Tennessee or Arizona or Florida or wherever you're going to move, they're going to continue to tax your income for 10 years. That's...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, see, I don't think they're going to get away with it. I think a lot of these things are theoretical. But the other big one that is coming is they're going to tax you by the mile here in California. So it's not the law yet, but they're working on how they're going to tax you by the mile you drive. So if you're upset about the interest, you just wait until you get in your car, and every time you drive a mile, you're paying more tax.
So it's how are they going to do that if I have an old car?
They're going to require you to report your mileage. That's
only when you register, right?
Yeah, that is coming. See, you have to report it to your insurance. So there's a number out there, right? They're going to do that. But that's the frustrating thing. What you're talking about with taxes, and I think it would be less frustrating if we thought they were using the money well, but they're not. And
right.
You know what though? You still got to pay it. Jesus says you got to pay it. And so I would say pay your taxes and vote accordingly, and demand they use it better. It's your money. I mean, they could be using it for some really good stuff, right? So you don't mind as much if it's all good.
I know you still got to pay our tax, but I already paid taxes on that and from my paycheck.
Oh yeah, you pay. They get you coming and going. And then you pay taxes on the gas, and you pay taxes on your electric bill, and you pay taxes on all the stuff. That's why some people are upset. Eddie, appreciate your phone call. 888-528-2557. Actually, we're almost done for the segment here, but hey, everybody, it is tax day, and you know what? Pay your taxes. Try to do it with joy, even if you've got an attitude about things in our state.
I take offense at our policies and strategies.
Go to PastorScottShow.com, and if you can follow us online, our social media, all of it is at Pastor Scott Show, at Pastor Scott Show. Give us a follow right now while we go to break. You're probably looking at your phone, so go to your Instagram. Give us a follow at Pastor Scott Show, at Pastor Scott Show. We'll be back as the Pastor Scott Show continues in a moment. Don't go away. Hey, before you go, I want to tell you about Dr. Eddie Simon. You know, one of the things that's taxing on your body is sleep apnea. And sleep apnea will make you wake up feeling tired even after a full night's sleep. It causes snoring and grinding of teeth, a whole lot of different things, plus about 170 different ailments. Some of them are deadly, like heart attack and stroke or Alzheimer's disease, things like that. Sleep apnea is a big deal. You got to take care of it. And when you do, you might be against that CPAP mask. That might be the most necessary thing for you. But there's another solution. For me, I went to go see Dr. Eddie Simon because he's created a mouthpiece. It's custom made. It's not something he pulls off the shelf. You go to his office in Los Angeles and they make sure it fits you. They make sure it'll work. And you know what? It does. It works great for me. Resolve my sleep apnea, resolve my snoring. I wake up feeling great. I think this can work for you. Call Dr. Eddie Simon at 800-92-SMILE, 800-92-SMILE, or go online to tmjexpert.com. That's 800-927-6453. We'll be right back. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Pastor Scott Show. Go to pastorscottshow.com to connect with us online. Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. You can find us at Pastor Scott Show. All of those links are at pastorscottshow.com. Phone number is 888-528-2557 if you want to join the conversation. We talk about issues of the day from a Christian perspective. You know, one of those issues of the day is narcissism. You've probably heard that word, or you've recognized that in your favorite politicians or your family, or maybe even your kids. And you know what? It's a pretty big deal. As a dad, I worry about the different things that my kids are displaying sometimes. And sometimes I'm just worried about nothing and they'll outgrow it, or I'm just looking into something that's not real. And other times there is some time to be concerned. Maybe you've seen that with your kids or your grandkids. With me to talk about it is Dr. Danny Huerta. He's the Vice President of Parenting and Youth for Focus on the Family. Danny, welcome back to the Pastor Scott Show.
Thanks for having me on the show. Grateful to be with you, Scott.
Danny, I think people use the word narcissist wrong.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
What does the word narcissist mean? It's kind of the psychological word of the day, I think. I hear it all the time. So-and-so's a narcissist, or my kid. What is that? What's a narcissist?
I mean, it has increased a lot just as far as narcissistic traits. So we'll say that. They actually, a research study showed that it rose as fast as obesity, just narcissistic traits. Now, when we think about a personality disorder, that is different. The percentage is much lower, and that's where you see an entitlement, but with the desire to exploit others for your own gain. There's aggression with it. There's dominance, visible arrogance. There's a lack of empathy towards other people. A grandiosity, a sense of, man, I'm better than everyone else, and people just need to be admiring me. And there's an image keeping that goes with that. But there are two different types of narcissists, and that's important to know. One of them is grandiose. I mean, those are obvious ones. They want the world to revolve around them, and they can be dangerous people. The vulnerable, covert ones, that's an interesting one. They're hypersensitive to criticism. If you try to provide constructive criticism and say, hey, I'd love to is there openness to give you some feedback, man, they will lash out. They'll be passive aggressive. They have a need for approval, but they have an intense defensiveness where they can't take any type of criticism because it hits them right to the core. So two different ones that develop over time. And since it's a personality disorder, it's something that's built within the environment of the person generally.
So sometimes when we're talking about narcissism, it's much bigger than entitlement, right? So it's
Yes.
more than that. It's about personality. Sometimes it's traits, you said, and other times it's actually something that's a disorder.
Yeah, I mean, there's entitlement within narcissism, but it goes beyond that. Where there's exploitation. There's an entitled self-importance. One of them is entitled that I deserve certain things, and there's a certain selfishness that goes along with kids, and especially into the teen years, kind of some self-protection, and that needs to be challenged and shaped as well. But this is one where there's an over evaluation of themselves. Like they can't have weaknesses. They feel they have more value than other people around them. So there's that entitled self-importance is the key word there, as we're thinking about the difference between entitlement and narcissism. It's a perception that I'm better than everyone else, and people should need to know that.
So it's an actual perception the kid has. So when I'm thinking about my kids at different ages, you know, when should I be concerned? It seems like it's a kid thing to, at some point, think, have some kind of entitlement, it's Christmas time. It's a day for them, right? It's my birthday. There's certain things. And then eventually they begin to learn, no, it's somebody else's turn and things like that. When should I start to get concerned that there's something that's not really normal child development, but something that my child is really struggling with?
And you want to look at different temperaments, because there are different kids with different ways that this can show up itself. And so if you have a leader child that's more of a strong-willed child, they will come in pretty strong on their demands, on how they want things to go. And what you want to be concerned about is when your child starts to say, rules don't apply to me. They're above the rules. That's a leader child. A talker child, one that's much more social, they relationship first. They have an insatiable desire for attention, and they need to bring all the conversation back to themselves. Any kind of story goes there. Oh, I have a story too, and they bring it right back to themselves, and that can start from an early age, that they can't see anyone else get that attention. And then, as you think about the thinker types, these are research type people. They're intellectual. They're perfectionistic. If your child, if you give them some constructive criticism, you're saying, hey, maybe when you're batting, you could do it a little bit different. You're trying to give instruction, and they just explode. They lose it. They can't take any instruction. They're hypersensitive to any type of criticism. They feel like they know better than everyone else. That's something to be concerned about. Those can show up at different developmental stages. And then the peacemakers, these are the ones that want to make everyone happy in the world. They just want everyone to be at peace, but they have a passive entitlement. They expect that in relationship, people should kind of plan their time around them. If they're peacemakers as young children, they kind of have this entitlement that people just need to take care of them. So they're the more hypersensitive ones that are feel mom and dad need to clear things for them so that they don't have any adversity, anything that's uncomfortable. And sometimes parents fall into that, where they're going, oh yeah, I want to make Johnny feel okay. I want him to be happy. And so they clear any kind of adversity or difficulty. And you begin to see a peacemaker kind of demanding that and saying, hey, mom, dad, the teacher kind of called on me, and I don't like that. I don't like being called on. So then the parents go in and they're upset at the teacher for that. But it was something that would have been good for that peacemaker child. So each one in their temperament can show up differently developmentally as they're growing up.
So at the end of the day, I hear a word like peacemaker, and I think, well, that's good, right? You want to do that. But it's really more about self than it's about making peace.
Yes.
Is that,
yes.
So you're not really the guy who's, the child who's able to diffuse a situation. You're the one who wants all the attention on yourself, even if you're doing a good thing, I suppose.
Yeah, you want the world to make you feel good.
Yeah.
The peacemakers want things to feel good. And so sometimes they're peacekeepers rather than peacemakers. And in this case, they're a peacekeeper for themselves because they want to feel good. It's not about anyone else.
Yeah. You're listening to the Pastor Scott Show. My guest is Dr. Danny Huerta. He's with Focus on the Family, and we're talking about our kids and what are the warning signs of whether or not we're raising narcissists. And, I think I thought to myself once in a while when my kids have done something crazy, like, am I raising a sociopath? What happened here, right? But, we kind of wonder, but I was watching this guy on social media as a teacher, and he's reading all these letters he gets from parents. And one of them was the parent was complaining that they did class outside and it was windy, and her child doesn't like the windiness, and that she looked online and the wind was going to be 7 miles an hour tomorrow, which is a slight breeze, and wanted the teacher to bring the class inside for the sake of her child. Is that the kind of thing that parents do to sort of create this behavior or, this personality type?
It begins to create that process. It's not that a parent does that and all of a sudden, man, I have a narcissist on my hands.
It's probably been going on forever.
Yeah, right. It's a pattern of trying. First of all, over evaluating a child, praising them for everything. You know, they're playing a sport and they're not that good. And you go, man, you are amazing. And you're just overemphasizing their skill. You're going, oh my goodness, you're so good. And they're just praising that when they're not. And so then they get this overinflated sense of who they are. And then, and they expect to be good at everything and better than everyone else because that's the feedback they've gotten. And in this case, with adversity, any kind of difficult thing, a parent that comes in and says, oh man, let me clear that for you. And they use the power from the parent to clear the way. They feel a sense of power and entitlement. I deserve this. And so if you disagree with me, I'm going to clear you out of my way. And they use the parents to do that for throughout their lifetime. And you see that play out in the school in certain ways with teachers. And as a school social worker, I saw that happen sometimes with parents complaining about a lower grade with a child and very upset with the teacher that their child got a lower grade. And I remember talking to some of those parents and saying, hey, it actually could be the best gift for your child because it means that they haven't learned everything and they need to work a little harder to learn it all. And so, what a gift to get a lower grade, to know what they don't know. And man, the parents just come in with this upsetness that, man, they deserve that. What in the world? What? And so they blame everyone else, and it's not the child's issue. It's everyone else's. And the child watches that and begins to come up with that belief system. And so whenever they go into a relationship, the blame goes on everyone else. The attention needs to be for me, and the world needs to revolve around me. And these are beliefs that built over time developmentally.
And so when it comes from the parent, as you're saying that, I'm thinking of all of these teachers who've called the show, are teachers that I know who will always say, this is what I'm getting from parents. And I always think to myself, my parents would have never done that. I would have had to be some kind of Columbo to convince my parents that the teacher was wrong somehow, growing up. And they would have defended me if that were the case. But they were always on the teacher's side at first when it came to things. This has changed for a lot of people. Why is that?
I think there's distrust. I mean, there is distrust in our society in general. And trust is a relational foundation that we lost. We see it in the Garden of Eden when trust was removed in there between Adam and Eve and God. When Satan called into question, things went into shame and destruction. And shame is a key word here. We are afraid of shame. And so for some parents, if their child is not doing well, their assumption is my child is fantastic, is great. And it starts to trigger some of their own insecurities, their own shame to the surface. And we are now a society of full comparison, comparing to one another and needing to look better than the other in order to feel better about ourselves. So we have a deficit of feeling a sense of worth and a sense of competence within society. And so when it comes to the school system, there is a lack of trust towards the instructors, towards the whole system itself. And so it causes a parent to question everything. And what I encourage parents to do is get to know your teachers, encourage them, and encourage them to challenge your children, because the more your child is challenged, the more they build resilience. And resilience is helpful for so many things in life, rather than softening the way and creating these narcissistic type of traits. Not necessarily disorder, but definitely traits within that playground.
So what can parents do? So one is evaluate yourself, because maybe you're the narcissist, right? In some regard, you're viewing your life in reflection of whatever your kid does, and you won't admit when they're messing up somehow. What can a parent do to be better at maybe preventing entitlement in their kids, or helping them through that if they've already noticed that trait?
Something I've taught over the years in my counseling practice, and it was my own kids, was the difference between a contributor and a consumer. And a consumer many times will pretend certain things. They'll be nice, they'll be kind, they'll do things in order to get something for themselves. And so for your kids, help them begin to learn the importance of knowing your intention. What are you actually wanting? What are you doing? A contributor will be kind, will be loving, and will be caring for the benefit and the love of other people. people around them. And so from an early age, I told my kids, hey, let's be noticers of what God's doing. So that's with gratitude. Noticers of people around us and who they are and their unique creation. They're uniquely made by God, that they're fearfully and wonderfully made. Noticing God's creation in general, from bugs to other things, and knowing that we are stewards within that, and that we're servants within God's kingdom, and we can start teaching that to our kids from an early age. Have them do chores and serve within the home from an early age, and then have them be encouragers, builders of others. I called my kids. I'd say, hey, you guys are going to be builders today, and that means builders in God's kingdom with your words, encouraging others, being life-giving to others, and that's modeled by you and also taught by you and encouraged by you. And then the final one is, what does it look like to be a servant? And that means serving other people. And as a family, look for opportunities to serve within your home. So as a dad, when you come home and you're already tired, you go, hey, I got the dishes tonight. You're modeling serving your family and doing it with joy, serving a neighbor, serving within the church when you can, and having that be part of your culture, that when you can, you serve outside your home, but within your home, the culture of service is a norm. And it begins with a couple learning to serve one another and modeling that, husband and wife serving each other, wanting the best for the other. And I would say, if you can think of as a parent, what is one thing I can do to make the day better for my family as I serve and I model that? That's great. Then have your kids have that challenge. Hey, think of one thing you could do to make the day better for at least one person today. Have that challenge for them. So that's just an initial way of embracing a contributor mindset rather than a consumer mindset.
I think that's a good word right there. This is the Pastor Scott Show. My guest is Dr. Danny Huerta from Focus on the Family. You can go to focusonthefamily.com to learn more there. One other thing that's on my mind when it comes to this is, you earlier mentioned that we are a culture that is built on comparison now, and kids are on social media. They're not supposed to be on there. We know it's bad from all the studies, but kids are on social media from a very young age, very often. Like, I think the age is 13 that you're allowed, but you can put it any date you want. So there are very young kids on there. And social media drives adults crazy as they compare themselves to other people. What's that doing to our kids?
Research is showing that it definitely grows narcissistic traits in kids. They become obsessed with the likes and the follows that they're hungry for, because that may bring revenue, but it also will bring a sense of importance to them, a sense of I'm better than, and the world is truly revolving around me. Social media itself encourages surrounding yourself with attention, right? Focusing it on yourself. And our culture is really responding in big ways to this social media craze. And the hard part is it's tied with money, financial gain there as well. And so people can exploit one another within that kind of setting as well.
Yeah, I've heard my own kids say it, and I've heard other kids talk about, what do you want to do when you grow up? Well, I want to be a YouTuber.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to make a living out of that. There's 5 people doing that, real successfully, right? There's more than 5, unfortunately. But, that's a weird thing, for me to sort of comprehend. But so much of that is self, right? That is driving. So keep kids off of social media. Just another reason to do that, for sure.
Oh, I would agree. I mean, screens are built specifically with this loop in mind, that our brain is attracted to the many things that screens can offer. One of them being escaping things if you're stressed out, to gaining as much attention as you can, and having people get to know you and having it centered around you. Everything about screens is pointed towards an addictive response, and we just need to be aware that as parents, we don't have to become the cool parents. We can become the parents that are truly, that we're warm and sensitive. We validate our kids and the fact that other kids have screens, but we also have boundaries and limits that make sense to our children's future and to their relationships and to their development. And research has shown plenty of cons to having screens at an early age. And so as long as you can push social media itself out into the future, the better it is. I know for our kids, we had plenty of conversations, and we said, yeah, at 18, 19, if you think it makes sense for you to do that when you're in college, that's up to you. But while you're here, let's explore the many other things that you can be involved in, and you as parents get to set the tone in that. Don't feel the pressure from other parents if they're letting their kids have screens at 7, 8, 9 years old. Man, you're just creating more parenting for yourself and more headaches.
Yeah. Well, Danny, this is all good stuff to think about. What are some resources that Focus on the Family offers for parents who are navigating these things?
Yeah, just come to focusonthefamily.com/parenting, and you'll land right on that page. There's so much there for you to explore. There's an assessment and the age and stage resources. Be sure to specifically look for those. And we look forward to you visiting here at Focus on the Family.
And if you're worried about something, you know what? You can take action now. If you're saying, oh, yeah, my kid's got all of that, well, don't just leave it there. Go get some help.
Yes. Yeah, hey, Scott, we have a counseling line that is fantastic. It's 1-800, the letter A and the word family, 1-800-232-6459. You can talk with one of the counselors there. If you have a teen that you're having a difficult time with, where you're seeing some of these traits or other behaviors, it's a great first phone call. Again, it's free. They'll refer you to a counselor in your area.
Dr. Danny Huerta, thanks for being with me again on the Pastor Scott Show today.
Thank you, Scott.
You can find all of that information at focusonthefamily.com, and you can get the podcast of this episode. Just go to pastorscottshow.com and check us out there. We'll be back as the Pastor Scott Show continues. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody. Pastor Scott Show. We're live on Wednesday. Go to pastorscottshow.com to connect with us online. Phone number to join the conversation is 888-528-2557. Go to clip 5.
Jesus himself did not run around saying, I'm the Messiah, I'm the Messiah.
Jesus kind of did say he was
You're
the
supposed to have a little bit of...
That's exactly what Jesus said. I am the Messiah.
You know what? No, he did not.
It's been a minute since
Here's the thing.
The Pope's got it. He's got God behind. She just said, I knew Jesus.
Jesus was not narcissistic like this guy.
And when you are the Messiah, it's not narcissism to say it.
Yes, it is.
When you are the Messiah.
I'm going to move this along because this is it's too much for me. The Pope has God with him.
Yes.
That is from The View this morning.
Humiliations galore.
Talking about Jesus being a narcissist for claiming he's the Messiah, except that I'm amazed at how many people don't realize the claims of Jesus. And I think it's filtered out because if you claim to be the Messiah, if you're not the Messiah, you're a crazy person. Right? If you claim, as Jesus did, very truly I tell you, Jesus answered, before Abraham was born, I am. I and the Father are one. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. He forgives sins, and he calls himself equal with God when he does there's one thing after another. I am he tells the woman at the well. Before the high priest, are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One? I am. How about that? It's amazing to me how many people don't know that. But I think that you can't revere Jesus if you don't believe, if you don't really believe he's the Messiah, and because he said that. He's a crazy person. All right, anyway, I wanted to put that out there. 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. Hey, we're talking about narcissism a moment ago, and, I've been trying to figure out how do I deal with some of our California politics right now with the Swalwell stuff, and which really is a sad story. And you've got to be narcissistic to be so flagrant about all of that. And I guess what I'd tell you is you got to just pray for his family and his wife and what people are going to go through. All those things are alleged, but there's, and I got to tell you what, I suspect whenever there are accusations, if you're not following the news, Eric Swalwell, who was the leading candidate to be governor, he was 6 weeks away from winning the Democratic primary in June, and which would have likely made him the governor of California. Now he's looking at going to prison probably because a bunch of women have come forward and accused him of sexual misconduct of different ways, even rape. And you know what? I'm a little skeptical only because right before an election, all of this stuff finally comes out. This seems to happen a lot. However, unlike other times when we've seen this, there's a lot of evidence. There's like times and places and dates, and those things are coming together, So when you have a lot of people come forward and accuse people of things, but they can't remember where it happened, there's no witnesses, they never told anybody about it at the time, and it happens to coincide with somebody's nomination to the Supreme Court or somebody's election coming up, that's the dirty, wicked side of politics. However, when they have evidence and they give reasons why, well, I didn't do it because I was afraid to call the police and to do these things. However, I told my friends, I told my Bible study group, I told my counselor, and there's notes and there's records. And there's times and dates, and you can actually place yourself in the same place as that person at the same time in the same hotel, which his worst accuser, there are many, can do. That looks bad. So I think he's out. I think his wife, I think he's in a lot of trouble. I think that's probably going to be true. It affects the race in California significantly. And I think it's a big deal because one of the big things that's happening in our state is the fraud discussion. And when you have YouTubers come out and they are able to unveil fraud in just a couple of hours by looking at some records. Saw this in Minnesota. We're seeing it here in California. That tells you something. That tells me, what I thought about it in Minnesota and what I thought about it here as well, is there has to be officials involved. That you can't have this level of fraud, billions of dollars, whether it's daycares or whether it's hospice, things that are overseen by the state, where there are state commissioners and state licensing agents who normally are a pain in the neck to those organizations, and they're just overlooking all of this, or they don't know about it. Or there's some cases of fraud that have been prosecuted, but only slightly. There's a big deal. But the biggest piece of it that to me says this is a huge scandal that goes right up to Sacramento and is on the front porch of a bunch of people is that they're attacking the YouTubers. They're attacking the people who would investigate this fraud. Rather than say, hey, thanks for helping us out, they're attacking them. Go to 3131.
A government that diminishes transparency has something to hide. And now the state of California has proposed a bill that would ban people like Nick Shirley, James O'Keefe, and other organizations out there that are doing investigative journalist work. One, if they are videotaping some of these nonprofit organizations, they could be criminally charged. They could be gone after civilly, up to $4,000 in some cases, and potentially $10,000. Think about how crazy this is in the state of California, where they have reduced laws on child predators. They have early release laws for violent individuals, all in our prison systems. But yet they want to add more penalties to potentially investigative journalists. Think about how crazy that is.
That is California Assemblyman David Tanguipa. Is that how you say his name, Jose? Do you know how to say it? I think it's Tanguipa, something like that. But he is pointing out what's being called the Stop Nick Shirley law. That's the nickname of it, but it's actually California Assembly Bill 2624 that was just put forward by Assemblymember Mia Bonta, who's the wife of California Attorney General Rob Bonta. He's the guy who is supposed to be the one who is dealing with all of the fraud, and recently just arrested a couple of those people, but then he's like, it's not even close. We're just scratching the surface on the billions of dollars. Everybody on all parties should be on that page. Everybody in Sacramento should be saying, wow, thank you for exposing this and apologizing for not being on top of it. Instead, what this bill is going to do is stop people like Nick Shirley from pursuing these things. And there's a lot of question about the bill and whether or not it's only going to apply to somebody who's independent, or will it also apply to the journalists at CBS News, for example, who are doing the same thing, or the same people. I mean, this is what 60 Minutes does, right? If you ever watch that program, that's what they do. You're going to say that you're not allowed to go expose this kind of fraud out there? That is what is being proposed in our state. Go to 3-2.
In this state, this law is probably more than likely unconstitutional because it bans open public videotaping. And not only that, these nonprofit organizations get government funds. We give them money. What are they doing that they want to hide? And again, a government that diminishes transparency has something to hide. We need people to get involved before they try to punish you for trying to expose these issues.
So what the bill is supposedly going to do is criminalize or put the brakes on investigative journalism and citizen reporting. It's going to allow organizations or individuals accused of fraud to sue journalists or sue these people like YouTubers or investigative journalists. You know, what makes you a journalist anyway? That's a big question today, is what makes you a actual investigator? I think if you're actually doing investigation, then you're probably doing it. Anyway, it's going to allow people to sue them because you might have showed their face or their operation or buildings. Now, these are public things. I understand that you don't want to go after people who are innocent and that you should be very careful. There should be, some guardrails to just accusing people of crimes. You can't do that. You can't go around with a camera and just accuse random people of crimes. And in today's world where it all goes viral and everybody sees it, that's wrong. You shouldn't do that. But if you're getting tax money, your money is going to fund these hospice services or these daycares. And you show up to the Leering Center and it's clearly fraud. And you interview somebody who clearly is covering up the fraud. And we know that that's the case. There should be some freedom for that. And if you're getting tax money, you're getting NGO money, you have to be accountable to that. It needs to be transparent. And so to me, what I think is what's showing to me is that I'm right, that there are officials involved in this. Because the only reason to stop people from exposing fraud is because you're benefiting from the fraud. Am I right? 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557, Pastor Scott Show. Ted in L.A., welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Pastor Scott, Ted, City of the Angels. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I just wanted to comment on even the term narcissistic. As Christians, to me, it's just for society, the world, that they got to come up with some word when actually, we're just unsaved, and when we're continually making it only about ourselves and not trying to help other people.
So are you saying also, that everybody's narcissistic? That's why we need a savior?
No, I wouldn't even use that term. I'd say we're just unsaved. We're for sinful nature, and that's what society likes to do. And they'll use it on other people. Oh, you're narcissistic. And it's just,
it's
to me,
definitely
it's
an
rude.
overused word today, for
Absolutely.
sure. I do agree with that. Ted, thanks for calling the Pastor Scott Show, 888-528-2557. It is the sort of the clinical word. Earlier we were talking about that and with kids and being careful. But there is something of a narcissist. It's not somebody who just feels entitled, and it's not just selfishness. It's somebody who has a real problem with an inflated sense of self-importance, a deep-needed feel for admiration, but also at the same time a lack of empathy for others. Right? So it's more than just entitlement. I deserve special treatment. It's more than that. And I think that's a big part of our politics. So when we're thinking about narcissists, what kind of a narcissist do you have to be where you want to punish the people who are exposing the fraud? When you want to go out and you want to say, and you want to pass laws that say, you know what, we're going to allow you to keep your fraud secret. I'll tell you more about that bill in a minute. I got to take a break. 888-528-2557. I'll take your calls in a minute, and we'll talk more about what's being called the Stop Nick Shirley Act when we come back. And you should call your assemblyman, your state assemblyman or woman, and you should call them and say, hey, don't vote for this. We want that fraud exposed. 888-528-2557. Pastor Scott Show, Wednesday edition. Be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Pastor Scott Show, final segment today. Phone number is 888-528-2557, 888-528-255741.
What do you think? Is this the Stop Nick Shirley Act in California?
Yeah, they're trying to make it so citizen journalists or just average Americans who are going about seeing what's happening inside their community, they're trying to scare them from talking about potential fraud taking place inside of these communities. And think about it. They're literally willing to impose a $10,000 fine or imprisonment if you go and seek to find out the truth about a location that could potentially be fraudulent inside your own neighborhood.
So that is Nick Shirley, and Nick Shirley is talking about a bill. It's called Assembly Bill 2624 that's brand new, that's put forward by Assemblymember Mia Bonta, who is the wife of our Attorney General, Rob Bonta. And he's the one who really is responsible for dealing with all this fraud, and he's barely touched it. He's done a little bit recently, I think only because he had to, because it was out there. Nick Shirley's the guy who has uncovered the fraud here in California. He's not the only guy. He's the guy who's made a lot more views on YouTube. But the fraud that is going on with hospice, which is major, it's billions of dollars, they think, billions of dollars in Minneapolis, all of that fraud with the daycares and stuff, the Leering Center, all of that, he's the guy. And so this bill, rather than spending time trying to uncover this fraud, is meant there to prohibit people like him from doing interviews with the people running these organizations. And it allows for people working there to seek civil penalties against people who might come and videotape them or ask them questions that might lead people to think they're doing fraudulent business. Now, there's certainly a line you got to not cross, right? Is there for journalists, whether you're working for a news organization or you're independent, you should be held accountable if you are presenting somebody as doing something criminal and, in fact, they're not, right? There has to be guardrails for that. On the other hand, you cannot restrain the freedom of the press or the freedom for people to investigate, especially when it's public funds we're talking about, especially when, if I run one of these hospice organizations and I'm a fraudulent person doing this and somebody knocks on my door and I open the door and I've never had any real patients, really I'm stealing identities and all of that, but I'm going to sue you now for uncovering what I did, for filming me, for asking me questions about where are my patients. How come all of my patients somehow don't die? They survive? That's wrong. And that's what critics are saying this bill is going to do. That leads me to a place of saying that at the end of the day, who's benefiting from all of this fraud? Not just the fraudster, but where does that money go? It's millions of dollars. I think politicians are getting it. That's what I think. I think that this feeds into a very corrupt state, that there are politicians who are getting that money, and that's why they turn their eye the other way. They know. Why in the world would you be against that? Everybody in the country should be about stopping this, and I think that's where most people are. So why is it that you have people going after this guy personally, the governor, in fact, doing that, treating him like he's a pedophile because he knocked on the door of fraudulent preschools? He was right about most of those, by the way, that he exposed. That's your response? Not, oh, thank you for bringing this to our attention, but you're a bad person because of that? 888-528-2557. Neil in Venice, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Oh, yeah, thank you for taking my call, Pastor Scott. I just wanted to say that I totally just hit the nail on the head that the money is going in the politicians' pockets, because why would they want to prevent people from helping them to find this fraud? And it just goes to show how fraudulent, so many fraudulent things are going on. The governor, this governor that we have here, he will sign that bill, I'm sure, and to put innocent people in jail and find them. I mean, it's really preposterous. It's unbelievable that they could act this way.
Well, and we'll see what happens. And, the reason I think people should pay attention is I think that you're right. I think the governor and the attorney general, everybody in leadership in our state should be saying, you know what, we want to do this right, but we need help uncovering this, because it's your money. It's not just random state money that doesn't affect you. It does. It's your money. It's taxpayer money. And it's theft. They're stealing out of your pocket to do all of this. And I think the only reason not to do it, the only reason is because you're benefiting from it. I think that's it. I think, tell me a different reason. Why would you go after these people for some other reason other than you don't want them to do what they're doing?
And it's always political. It's like he got on TV the other day saying that they've been on top of this fraud for years, but none of it's been uncovered until now.
Well, there's been a couple of cases. So the pattern seems to be, and this is what happened in Minnesota. In Minnesota, there's about 2018. There's a woman who was arrested for organizing a lot of this, the Somali daycares, and she's in prison for it. Okay, you went after one person, good for you, but you didn't go after anybody else, and it's clear that it's going on constantly, and that's what we're seeing here. We're going after a couple of people, And then we're going to say, see, we're going after fraud. I don't think that's enough. I think it's much bigger. Neil, thanks for calling the Pastor Scott Show. 888-528-2557. Here's a little more from Nick Shirley.
Nick, let's just kind of play out that hypothetical. So whether you were in Minnesota, you also went to California, you would go up to the Quality Leering Center, a clearly fake daycare in Minnesota. There's your shirt. Yeah, it's always on. And you would attempt to see if there's any children inside, right? And somebody comes out and talks to you. And now that person who's there possibly committing fraud could file a complaint in California that Nick Shirley is harassing me online, right? That's how it would work in effect. And then you would either see a year in jail or a $10,000 fine.
So that's what he is looking at, is that rather than expose that fraud, you might yourself go to jail. Well, that's going to keep you from doing it, right? Now what has happened in California is because of Nick Shirley and a couple other people. CBS News picked this up, and they are exposing that fraud. And I think that is the tipping point, because one guy who has got his camera and he's following people around, he doesn't really have the ability to prosecute. Even if he's uncovered something, the authorities are going to have to deal with that, or there's going to have to be a whole bunch of other reporters who are ready to go. You need money. But when CBS takes it, all of a sudden, now you got a major news network who has said, hey, you know what? Turns out there is fraud. Turns out right here in Van Nuys in Los Angeles, you've got more hospice organizations in one building than ought to be in all of the state of California. There's more hospice organizations in that building in Los Angeles County than in 36 states, including Florida combined. Clearly, there's fraud. You have 85% of these people who go into hospice surviving. Hospice is for people who are dying, not for people who are going to get well. It rarely happens that you go into hospice care and then you don't pass away. Everybody knows this. But when YouTube are doing it, you raise a lot of stink and people, get mad, but it doesn't necessarily accomplish something until you've got some money behind it, until you have prosecutors behind it. I think they ought to hire a bunch of prosecutors and just say, let's just go after it. And this, it's bigger than just the frustration. Scripturally, there is a lot here about dishonest scales. Micah 6:11, shall I acquit someone with dishonest scales with a bag of false weights? Habakkuk 2:9, woe to him who builds his house by unjust gain. Amos 8:5, skimping on the measure, boosting the price, and cheating with dishonest scales. All of this is dishonest scales. And the people who get hurt are the poorest people, right? At the end of the day, when tax dollars are ripped off like they're being ripped off, the people who bear that burden the most are the people who can afford it the least. That's the way that goes. We talk about taxing the billionaires, and we're just going to tax them right out of the state is what we're doing here in California. Then that tax burden that they have left. I mentioned the last segment that there is. I think I mentioned this. Maybe I'm just having a conversation, but that in California, one of the things they're considering is whether or not they can continue to tax you for years after you leave the state, with the idea that, hey, you made your money in this state, and then you left to go to Texas or Tennessee or Florida, and you're doing really well, all that. No, we're going to keep taxing you. It's not going to be constitutional. It's crazy. And that might happen to you if you're a house. So you bought your house for $100,000 in 1982, and you sell it for $1.2 million in 2026, and you move to Tennessee. Well, you just made $1 million. California doesn't like it that you just left. And so they want some of that. And if you're a billionaire, well, they're chasing out the billionaires. They want all that money. What's going to happen is the tax burden will leave with the billionaires, but regular people will still owe that money. Or we're going to have to cancel the programs, like that train. They don't want to do that. All of this is tied up into that. My friends, as you pray for our state, this needs to be exposed. Ephesians 5:11, have nothing to do with fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. Right? Proverbs 10:9, whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever takes crooked paths will be found out. This is something. It doesn't just break laws, this fraud. It's violating God's design for truth, and it's undermining our whole state. So when you have Sacramento passing laws to protect the fraudsters at the end of the day, that should raise everybody's alarm bells. So my suggestion to you, and this has worked before on our show, is that you should call your assembly person, you should call the governor, and you should call your state senator. It's AB 2624 in the Assembly. Don't call your senator yet. They don't have it. But call them and say, vote no on that. If you want to protect people from being doxxed and things, there's some legitimate reason to do that. But you can't protect the fraudsters. If you have a public, it's just my thought, if you've got a public company and you're taking public money, it needs to be transparent. Everybody should be able to see the books, and you should not be able to push away reporters who are sniffing around. You should be able to say, sure, here's the books, here's the people on hospice, here's the records, and we're doing a good job to help homeless people. We're doing a good job to help people who are sick, people who are elderly, kids who need daycare. That shouldn't be that hard, and we all should know it. So don't shrug your shoulders. Do something about it. All right, that's all I got in that rant today. Dave and Denise, you can call back on Friday for Open Line Friday. You can bring the subjects up if you want. Again, Pastor Scott Show. Go to PastorScottShow.com, PastorScottShow.com to connect with us online. Follow us on social media at Pastor Scott Show on your favorite social media, including YouTube at Pastor Scott Show. See you tomorrow live from 3 to 5. Good night.